Peace, peace, peace. How your people's doing out there? As you know, I'm Juice Winner, and this is Old Your Gritty, where we talk about everything under the sun as long as it is real, right? So as we get into this right here, let me check my audio volumes here. All right. As we get into this right here, right, let's go into chapter 16. If you don't know, we are reading Keys to Masonry and Secret Chambers, where where we are revealing the secret workings of Freemasonry and how to not only combat it, pardon me here, how to not only combat it, but to also um um to also be able to find it and locate it wherever it is at under whatever name it hides itself. Working under cover of the German Union and Company. How Masonry brought about the French Revolution and the Irish Massacre, aimed at similar results in other countries. Testimony showing that Masonry is now the same in every respect. Masonry had and still has its great support from professed ministers of the gospel. The revelation in the heart of men, very affecting. Masonic authority adduced, showing that the higher degrees of masonry originated with French atheists. Right? So that's what we will be covering. Let's get into the German Union. What's up? We sup. I know I'm saying it wrong, but what's up had said F has said that if the order should be discovered and suppressed, he would restore it with tenfold energy in 12 months. The order was discovered and suppressed in Bavaria and in the Duchy of Wessenberg, and then was discovered the method by which it was to be restored with tenfold energy in 12 months. The method is simply this: the old sign is taken down and the Illuminati being removed, the German Union takes its place. And now precisely the same business is carried on under a new firm that was carried on under the old. It will be remembered, of course, that Masonry played the same trick and played it successfully after the murder of Morgan. And now that people are again waking up to the evil of Masonry, the same trick is being played. Just lift up your eyes and see the new sign boards with the new firms printed thereon. Pardon me. And some of them very much resemble old. The word German is thrown out, of course, and so is the word Mason in many instances, but the word union is retained. That being not only unoffensive and inoffensive, but quite attractive. Then we have the improved order of the red men and the independent order of odd fellows, of course, and how many other firms there are and shall be. We know not, nor does it matter, for they all carry on the same fraudulent business. Hence, they all love darkness rather than light, because their deeds are evil. A member of the improved order of red men assures me that they have 100,000 men in the state of Pennsylvania alone. Women, too, have become quite a useful commodity in some of these secret places of business, such as the Star Lodge, a good Templar Lodge, the Good Templar Lodge and Company. There the ladies become star sisters, worshipful grands, heroines, jo- of Jericho, Buffalo, heroines of Jericho and Company. And sometimes they are even indulged with a knowledge of the 5 points of fellowship. But I am inclined to think that in the constellation of star sisters, there will not be found many stars of the first magnitude. It is the highest of folly for men to suppose that they can forever conceal their doings. Jesus has said that which is spoken in the ear and the closest shall be revealed upon the housetop. Hence, the secret doings and proposed of the German Union were fully divulged in the system, which found to be the same old conspiracy. Many persons who had been drawn into the lodge under false pretenses, when they began to feel the crushing power of the secret rulers and to see their diabolical purposes, broke loose from the conspiracy and divulged the whole affair. Several such works were noticed by Robinson, but he says on page 223 the fullest account is to be had in the work published to Leipzig by Gashin, the bookseller. It is entitled More Notes Than Test, or the German Union of 22, a new secret society for the good of mankind. Leipzig, um, Leipzig, I know I'm saying his name wrong, 1789. Here is the same old fraud. And the day ye eat thereof, then ye eyes shall be open, and ye shall be as gods. This is masonry exactly. And still men are led astray by failing to distinguish between what masonry claims to be and what it is. By the 22, we are to understand 22 conspirators who planned and worked the system secretly, no being no unknown even to the other members of the order. Just so Jesuitism, just so Masonry, yea, and just so diabolism, see Ephraim 6:12. Now, this system, you know, that, of controlling the people through a smaller group. So even while you are in that system, you are unaware that there is a system being worked on you. And if you're keen of the system, right, you want to join to get higher. And no, it's like the gangs in New York with the codes. The more work you put in, the more codes you got. So you was inspired, by this revelation and wordings, because you probably nervous that people talking about you or whatever the case may be, right? Um from the disclosures which Robins have furnished, we will give a few extracts, mainly for the purpose of showing that while this secret conspiracy changes its name and plans, its nature and objects are the same. Agreeably to this manner, the proceedings, there are two classes of the brotherhood, the ordinary and the managing brethren. The ordinary and the managing brethren. The later alone know the aim of the association, and all the means are attained for attaining it, and they alone constitute the union. The name and the connection of which are not intended to be at all conspicuous in the world. To this end, the business takes a new external form. Namely, the brethren speak not of the union in the place where they reside, nor of a society, nor of enlightening the people, but they assume that they assemble and act together in every quarter merely as a literary society, bringing into it all the lovers of reading and useful knowledge. And such, in fact, are the ordinary brethren who merely know that the association exists in their place of residence. For the encouragement of literary men, but by no means it has any connection with any other similar society, and that they all constitute one whole. Thus, they united men together for the very worst purpose, and yet managed to keep them ignorant of the fact. Just so Masonry unites men together under the name and pretense of temperance societies. But the Mason also knows the aim of the association and all the means for attaining it, and they alone constitute the union. Nay, even the small fray of Masons who kept in ignorance of the aim, and secret is kept with the managing brother. But from a beginning which professed nothing but good, men were led step by step, and as soon as considered trustworthy, that is, devastated of all their early religious prejudices, the aim of the managing brethren is thus made known. Christianity is expressingly said to have been a mystical association, and its founder is Grand Master of the Lodge. The apostles Peter, James, John, and Andrew were the elect and brethren of the third degree and initiated into all the mysteries. And the remaining apostles were only of the second degree, and the 72 were of the first degree. And to this degree, ordinary Christians may be admitted and prepared for further advancement. The great mystery is that JC was a naturalist and taught the doctrine of a supreme mind, the spectator, but not the governor of the world. Pretty nearly in the sense of the stories, I guess, Stokes of the Stokes. The initiate brethren were to be instructed by reading proper books. Those particular recommended are those particular knowledge. Ebhard's apology for sacristy, Bernard's apology for reason, Stabbard's system of moral education, Myrner, ancient mysteries, Bert's letters to the Bible, and Bert's completion of the plan and aim of Jesus Christ. These books are the most anti-Christian character, and some of them aim at shaking off all moral obligations whatsoever. This too is Masonry, as an astonishing Savior, as the true God, as a proper object of worship. Jesus Christ is excluded by Masonry, but he claimed to have been a Mason. Just so, he is represented in the above theory of the German Union, and it is well known that the two Johns are claimed by Masons as their Patreons. Just so, the German Union only the Baptist is not mentioned in the above list of apostles. It will be seen too by all who are informed as to Brigham Young's government that his motto was German Union Masonry. Of course, he has revived from the plan, has veered from the plan somewhat, but he has adhered to it so closely that he may be considered a good Mason, or if he please, a good illuminist. It did not answer his purpose, of course, to adopt the firm under which his father carried on the business. No, his firm is the Church of Latter-day Saints. He is a wonderful saint, just such a saint as the Wessep and many of the Masons who fill more respectable pulpits than those of Salt Lake City, are saints of the same stamp. Thus, it was the conspirators' first work under the cover of the stonemason societies, and since then under cover of literary society, reading societies, philosophical societies, temperance societies, Christian societies, or any other that would answer as cover for the time being. And you should understand that that's what we deal with now with the woke community and all of these, these different ADOs, ABO, Moors, Native Americans, Nubians, and all of this. This is the same system that we are dealing with. Okay. After a great length, how the conspirators work under cover of various names and pretenses, and how they obtain position of trust in civil and religious departments all over France and Germany and the German states. Mr. Rubens says, I must not forget to notice that about this time, 1787 or 1788, there appeared an invitation from a baron of Prince S, governor of the Dutch fortress H, before the troubles in Holland, to form a society for the protection of princes. The plan is expressed in very enigmatical terms, but much as plainly shows it to be merely an odd title to catch the public eye, for the association is of the same seditious kind with all those already spoken of, namely professing of enlightened the minds of men and making them imagine that all their hardship proceeds from superstition, which subjects them to useless and crafty priests. Many circumstances concur to prove that the projector is the induous plan of Prince Psalms, who assiduous foments all the disturbance in the Dutch and Australian Netherlands. He had before this time taken into his service whack the Cato of the Illuminati. The project the project had gone some length when it was discovered and suppressed by the states. Thus, the conspirators worked under cover of a society for the protection of princes, but that pleasing and attractive word protection simply meant in a vocabulary of the conspirators destruction, and the word superstition meant the Christian religion. By this method, the ignorant, skeptical, and discontent masses were led to hate true religion and partisanship. For superstition, properly so called, is really the bad thing that they declared it to be, and that there were in all oppressive governors, both in church and state, was and is the fact not to be denied, but to propagate and the principles of atheism and rebellion, and that by falsehood and fraud has certainly a very unlikely way to make matters better. All right, so we're about to get into the French Revolution. Don't forget to hit that like, that subscribe, and that notification bell. All right, and this is Street Skelzy Knock 'em Out the Box, my novel. You can check it out whenever you get a chance. The link is up in the description. Mr. Robinson now shows at great length and by an accumulation of evidence how those secret societies brought about our act least accelerated the French Revolution, and instead of making it a work of reformation, made it one of rapine and blood, and that too an extent which probably has no parallel in human history. He says they pretended to establish universal liberty and equality as a as necessary perpetration for all this. They intended to root out all religion and ordinary mortality, and even to break the bond of domestic life by destroying the veneration for marriage vows and taking the education of children out of the hand of the parents. Now, mind you, this is in the 1800s that this is being written, and we see that today. This was all that the Illuminati could teach, and this is precisely what France has done. Now, it is well known that Masons claim this same universal equality as the very basis of their system, the platform upon which they all met on the level. Yet their rulers, like those of the Illuminati, are the various despots ruling in darkness, devising treason and commanding murder, asserting that their measures must be carried out if it should cost money and blood. We have already shown the beneficial influence of secret societies upon family relations and upon education generally. Our author proceeds. I cannot proceed in this the narration without defiling the page of the detested name of Orleans, stained with everything that can degrade and disgrace human nature. His contemptible being was illuminated by Mirabeau and has shown himself the most zealous disciple of the order. In his oath of allegiance, he declares that the interests and the objects of the order shall be treated by him above all other relations, and that he will serve it with his honor, his fortune, and his blood. He keeps his word and has sacrificed them all and been treated in the true spirit of the order, used as a mere tool, cheated and ruined. For I must now add that the French borrowed from the Illuminati a maxim unheard of in any other association of banditti, name that of cheating the other, as the managers of the sole possession of the higher mysteries, and led the rest of principles which they held to be false and which they employed only for the purpose of securing the cooperation of their inferior brethren. So Mirabeau, C.S. Petion, and others led the Duke of Orleans at first by his wicked ambitions and the expectations of that crown which they intended to break to pieces, that they might get the use of the immense fortune and of his influence on the thousands of his depending Scythians. Didn't get it right. If I did, I did. Okay. Just Thus, it is that Masonry still employs the influence and money of those whom it can deceive, till it leads them to utter ruin, and that my principles upon to be false. Speaking further of the wretched Orleans, Mr. Robinson says he had almost unbounded authority, almost among the Freemasons. In this country, we have no conception of the authority of a National Guard master when Prince Ferdinand of Brunswick, by great expectation among the jarring sects in Germany, had got himself elected Grand Master of the secret observance. It gave serious alarm to the emperor and to all the princes of Germany, and contributed greatly to their convenience at the attempts of the Illuminati to discredit that party. And in the great cities of Germany, the inhabitants paid more respect to the Grand Master of Masonry than to the respective princes. The authority of the Duke of Orleans in France was still greater in consequence of his employing his fortune to support it. About 8 years before the revelation, he had, not without much intrigue and many bribes and promises, he been elected Grand Master of France, having under his direction all the improved lodges. The whole association was called the Grand Orient de la France, and in 1785 contained 266 of these lodges. See Ziggurat, 1787. Thus, he had the management of all those secret societies and the liquious, irreligious sentiments which were currently preached there, were sure of his hearty concurrence, and the same intrigue that procured him to supreme chair must have filled the lodge with his dependents and emirients, and these men could not better earn their pay than by doing their utmost to propagate infidelity, immorality, and impurity of manners. In this lodge have met some of the worst men in the world ever known, and from it have flown streams which have corrupted and the entire nation and brought it to the verge of ruin once again. Teachings have emanated from it which have made French a nation of atheists. I say this Grand Lodge for all the other French lodges receive instructions from it and work in harmony with it. As early as 1785, they were under the direction of this Grand Lodge, as we have seen 266 lodges, Masons, and on 266 lodges. Masons tell us that some men having taken all the degrees that can be given in this country have gone to Paris to obtain degrees which American Masons cannot give. And as some Methodist preachers are said to have taken all the degrees that can be given in this country. I presume some of them will go to France atheists to obtain additional lessons in Masonic atheism. Indeed, it will be that some of them have been there already. But observe, I only give this as Masonic talk. For my own part, I look upon it as merely designed to deceive for the conspirators here as well as in France will give as many degrees as a man is willing to pay for, provided he will take the oaths and keep them. By this talk, however, they acknowledge their connection with the Grand Orient de la France. On page 294, and onward, Mr. Robinson gives us some startling extract from a book published by Mr. LaFrance. A second edition of this book was published at Paris in 1792. Mr. Lafranc, who was a literary gentleman, got his materials on the death of a friend who had been a very zealous Mason. He found among the papers a collection of Masonic writings containing the rituals, catechism, and symbols of every kind, belonging to a long train of degrees of Freemasonry, together with many discourses disbelieved in different lodges and minutes of their proceedings. On pursuing the whole, Mr. L was alarmed by the unethical and seditious teachings thereon contained. He at once communicated the substance thereof to the Archbishop of Paris, supposing that the bishop would represent the matter to his majesty ministers. This was some time before the revolution. After awaiting long, he was surprised that no notice had taken of the matter. He therefore published the whole matter. Mr. Robeson says, had the good man been spared but a few months, his surprise at the neglect would have ceased, for on the 19th of November 1793, the Archbishop of Paris came to the bar of assembly, accompanied by his vicar and 11 other clergymen who renounced Christianity and their clerical vows, acknowledging that they had played the villain for many years against their conscience, teaching what they knew to be a lie, and were now resolved to be honest men. The vicar had indeed behaved like a true illuminist some time before, but running off with another man's wife in his strongbox. None of them, however, seemed to have attained the higher mysteries, for they were all guillotine not long after. No doubt both Masons and honest men have contended that Masonry was a good thing, urging the fact that so many ministers were in the lodge and even the Archbishop of Paris. But the sequel showed that they were infidels or atheists while they officiated as ministers of the church. And today, there are many Masons officiating at the Christian altar who are about as honest, as sound in the faith as were the Persian bishops and his clerical associates when they ministered both at the Masonic and Christian altar, and afterwards bowed at the bar of that assembly of atheists. When will men have done with the silly argument? Masonry must be good because ministers are Mason. The greatest villains in the world ever saw have covered their villainy with clerical robes. The fact that a man has taken the Masonic oath and adheres to them is all sufficient proof that is ever very far gone from original righteousness, and the additional fact that he at the same time acts as a Christian minister makes his case 1,000 times worse. All the clerical garments under heaven cannot prove that man and his contradictions, obligations to be right. Poor Mr. Lefranc, who published the Masonic documents mentioned above, was butchered in the massacre of September 1792. In the course of his remarks on the man's book, Mr. Rubin says, Mr. Lefranc then takes particular notice of the many degrees of chivalry cultivated in the lodge and shows how by artful changes and a successful explanation of the symbols, the doctrines of Christianity and of all revealed religions are completely exploded, and the Philippical Inquius comes at last to professed atheists. Nothing can be more correct than these criticisms, and they alone prove the truthfulness excuse me, the truthfulness of this remark by simply reading the key of Masonry, which is the 28th degree after what are we odds here? Reading the key of Masonry, which is the 28th degree, after adducing numerous facts to show how the French lodges worked for the overthrow of church and state. Mr. Robinson adds, thus were the lodges of France converted in a very short time and to a set of secret affiliate associate societies corresponding with the Mother Lodge of Paris, receiving from thence their principle and instructions, and ready to rise up at once when called upon to carry on the great work of overturning the state. Now, it is well known that Masonry in these United States today claims to be in just such a state of readiness. More than 300,000 knights armed to the T, ready to be ready at the shortest notice. For what purpose we do not know, but we do know that some of their oaths bind them to defend each other, right or wrong. And we know too that the prevailing religion is declared to be a serpent which he hates, and which we must fight against and destroy. We know as also that their oaths bind them to absolute obedience to Masonic law and authorities, and to them alone. Right? Like I said, I'm Juice Wanna. This is Old Jaw Gritty. Missed that call. This is Old Jaw Gritty, where we talk about everything real under the sun. Right? On page 315, Mr. Robertson gives us the following. In 1789, or the beginning of 1790, a manifesto was sent from the Grand National Lodge of Freemasons, so it is called, to Paris, signed by Duke of Orleans as Grand Master, addressed and sent to the lodge in all respectable cities of Europe, and exhausted them to unite for support of the French Revolution, to gain its friends, defenders, independence, and according to their opportunities and their practicabilities of the thing, to kindly and propagate the spirit of revolution through all lands. This is the most important article and deserves a very serious attention. I got it first of all in a work called something in German or something, I don't know, 1785. So clear is it that the French Revolution was planned and facilitated by the Masonic Lodge, and observed their object was to kindly and propagate the spirit of revolution through all lands. Hence, the massacre in Ireland was facilitated and brought about in the same way and almost at the same time. We, as we formerly showed. Now, if a book had been published in this country before the late rebellion, appraising the existence of such secret combination for such purpose, who would have noticed it? Such, however, was the fact, as we have learned by painful experience, and we announce the existence of such oath-bound combinations all over our land today. But who will regard it? For nor let it be forgotten that the declared aim of Masonry is universal rule. It claims to have a a platform upon which men of all nations and creed except the Christian creed can stand together and all be under Masonic law and rule, and these only cosmopolitanism was the professed aim of the Illuminati. And the same is the aim of Masonry. Hence, the above order sent forth from the Grand National Lodge to kindly and propagate the spirit of revolution through all lands. Nor is it possible to evade these conclusions by objecting that these are the sentiments of French revolutionists. They are the sentiments and mandates of the highest Masonic authorities. The Masonry claims to be one all over the world, nor is this all. We are forced to the same conclusion by undeniable facts, which must be seen by all who do not close their eyes. For in every instance wherein civil and Masonic law comes in conflict, the civil law is set aside and trampled upon, and the Masonic law enforced, as Masons have the power to do so. The elastical law is treated in the same way. Yea, the authority of the Bible is treated in the same way, nor is the astonishing fact denied by Masonic authority, but published to the world. Take a single instance from the Masonic origin, the National Freemason, as quoted by the Christian Syria Sonorous of March 11, 1871. The Bible, therefore, is of no dogmatic authority in the lodge, nor can the Masonical regard it as the exclusive source of that light, which is to guide our steps. It is to use as Masons, but as symbols to type of that goodness which the Mason requires to preserve his moral purity and strength in every condition, situation in life. Any representation to the contrary or anti anti agnostic to the pure spirit of toleration and charity, which is the spirit of Masonry. There is in the above degree that obscurity which seems to be inspirable from this mystic and dark system. Instead of saying the Bible is of no authority in the lodge, it is said to be of no dogmatic authority. Instead of saying that it is not that light which is guided our steps, we are told that they can not Masonically regard it as a source of that light. Instead of saying that the Bible is not their God and morals, we are told it is only the symbol of that goodness which the Mason requires to preserve his moral purity and strength. It is the mere symbol of that Mason's requires to preserve his purity and strength. What stuff? He already has independent of the Bible and the God of the Bible, both purity and strength, and to preserve these he obtained sussor for another source, where we are not told the amount of this. The Bible and the God of the Bible are of no authority in masonry, nor do they expect either light or strength from them any more than from the compass and square with which the Bible is united in the large. I long since said that by this union, Masons designed to indicate their estimate of the Bible. Now, their public print speaks as plainly as does the 28th degree, where it is said to be the book with the word, the Bible, written in it. Yet, those deceivers exhibit the Bible in front of their possessions, tell us their system is from the Bible and that it is one of the jewels of their lodge. Yet, after all this and much more of the same kind, all we gravely told it is to us as Masons, but a type. Compared with such men, a common infidel is a saint. It really means that Masons and manhood can not be together. And the reflection upon the principal teachings and doings of Masonry and kindred association. Mr. Robins gives expression to the following burning and truthful sentiments. It is a Malconi truth that they have been purchased and recommended for the most part by clergymen, parish ministers who in the presence be invoked duties, and in the face of the world have set their solemn seal to a system of doctrine directly disposit to those recommended in their writings, which doctrines they solemnly profess to believe and solemnly swear to inculcate, whatever. Surely the instructions of such men should be rejected. Where shall we find their real opinions? On their solemn oaths or in these infidel desecrations? In either case, they are deceivers, whether misled by vanity or by the mean desire of church emulation, or they are prostitutes counting the society of the wealthy and sensual. Honesty, like justice, admits of no degree. A man is honest or he is a knave. And who would trust a knave? But such men are unsuitable instructors for another reason. They are unwise, for whatever they may think, they are not respected of as men are worthy, but are unworldly despised of parasites. It's funny how we use that word, and that's like one of the main terms that I use for Masons. They're parasites. By the rich who admit them into their company and treat them with civility for their own reasons. We take instructions not merely from the knowing and learning, but from the wise, not therefore from men who give such evidence of weakness. Upon words so forcibly, remarks so truthful, a paragraph so complete, a make so I make no comment. I will only say that the sentiments which regard of Masonic preachers are here satisfactorily expressed, nor can any well-informed person deny that what was a melancholy melancholy truth in those days is equal for in these days. And when he says those days, I'm saying again equal in these days. Okay. And the same abominable system is now recommended for the most part, but clergymen, and I will add with emphasis, had it not been for Methodist clergymen in vow system had never attained its present giant proportions. As illustrated as illustrative of a corrupting influence of this dark system, Mr. Robin gives us the following affecting testimony. The most worthy and accomplished gentleman who took refuge in this country, leaving behind him his property and friends to whom he was mostly tenderly attached, often said to me that nothing so much affected him as the revelations in the heart of men. Characters which were unspotted, hearts thoroughly known to himself, having been tried by many things which search for in most fold of selfishness and malevolence, malevolence, in short, persons whose judgment were excellent, on whose worth he could have rested his honor and his life, were so corrupt by the contingents that they came at last on behold, and even to commit the most archaeous crimes with delight. He used sometimes to utter a sigh which pierced my heart, and would say that it was caused by some of those things that had come across his thought. He breathed his last among us, declaring that it was impossible to recover peace of mind without a total oblivion to the wicked and miseries he had beheld. This is very affecting. Such is the process of infernal process in which these men had been subjected in the lodge, that every vestige of their humanity seems to have been destroyed. Nor let it be forgotten that in the lodge and the country men have been subjected to precisely the same process and with precisely the same results. And proof is this: I simply refer to the late rebellion, to Libby prison and Andersonville and company, and to the doing of secret order of knights and Ku Klux and company, all of which are the fruits of masonry. I tell people all the time, masonry is the mother of the cults, those first 3 degrees. And then from there, depending your movements on which way you go. The following remarks Rubinson are also worthy of notice. Never since the beginning of the world has true religion received so complete an acknowledgement of her excellence as has been extorted from the fantastics who have attempted to destroy her. Religion stood in her way, and the wretch Marat, as well as the steady villain Wasop, saw that they could not proceed till they had eradicated all sentiments of the moral government of the universe. Here, we simply remind the reader that we have given abundant evidence to prove that this is still the aim of Masonry, that these sentiments and the feelings which they produce can never be entirely eradicated, for our race is quite certain. But so far as the thing is done, it can only be done by a secret process. It cannot possibly be done by any other way. It was well understood to that the divine ceremony with regards to the family relations and feelings stood in the way of diabolical purpose. Hence, every effort was put forth to subvert that ceremony. Mr. Robin says, page 359. Mr. De La Methery says that among the memorials sent from the Club of England to the National Assembly, he reads two printed in which the assembly was requested to establish a community of wives and take children from their parents and educate them for the nation. Did you hear that? In full compliance with this dictate of universal philanthropy, Wassup would have murdered his own children and his concubine in Orleans, and voted the death of his near relation. Thus, it was that the secret club, both in England and in the continent of Europe, aimed at the destruction of national feelings as well as that of all religion and government. And they actually succeeded to the incredible extent, nor let it be said that masonry of today is any better. It is not. If its effects are not quite as bad here, it is because there is more Christianity here. One of the obligations in the 3rd degree restrains the lust of the worshipful master at a very limited extent, not because the indulgence would be contrary to God's law, but simply because the worshipful master desires to have their wives, mothers, and sisters protected against the oath-wise, unrestrained lust of their worshipful brothers. Why this single obligation has in it a germ of all the corrupt. Now, when we know that such corrupt and corrupting secret clubs have become a perfect nuisance all over our country. We need wonder what unnatural acts are constantly on the increase, have become so numerous and common that a great extent of these cease to shock the moral sense. Yea, the perpetrators of such acts seek the authority and protection of law, nor do they seek in vain. Indeed, that which the club requests the French Assembly of Atheists to establish in France is now established in this country, even in Salt Lake City. Yea, it has also become respectable. Finally, immortality has become so prevalent and bold that common brothels seek the sanction and protection of law. Who can fail to see the connection of all this with those numerous secret dens which exclude all that is good and invite and generate all that is bad? The revelations which secret societies produce in the hearts of men in France in the last century, and view of which is dying men groaning out, was last compliment complaints, is most assuredly being wrought in the hearts of men in this country, the very same societies, nor will the final results be less disastrous here than they have been there. If secret societies are permitted to increase and carry on their bad work as they have done and are doing, no man worthy of being considered a Christian and a patriot can any longer close his eyes to the great evil and remain inactive. Such less can such court their friendship and afford them success and support. On page 365, Mr. Robin says, I think that a person could hardly be advanced as far as the rank of Scotch Knight of the order and be a safe man either of our church or state. What man in his sense could think otherwise? For my part, I consider the thing perfectly obvious and certain so. I think must every man who knows the horrid oath and corrupting teachings of the degrees take one man taken by the man who has advanced thus far in what is called the Scotch Rite. The reader must remember, however, that the word right has here used has a Masonic meaning. It embraces 33 degrees, including the three entered apprentice fellow craft master mason, and ending with solving grand inspector general. Perhaps this will explain why Reverend Arthur Edmund was so anxious waiting to receive the 33rd degree. He was told, as at the last session of our conference, no doubt he was tickled with the idea of becoming a sovereign grand inspector general. turns to Mackey's Lexicon of Freemasonry article, Scott's right, and you will find the name of all these degrees. You will find too that he there confirms our testimony as the ethical origin of the degree above the three first. This right, which was organized in the present form in France early in the 18th century in company. There surely that is satisfactory after this we think it will be of little use for the mystic brotherhood to attempt to validate our testimony by crying out, lies, lies. He knows nothing about it. We now see too, if we did not before whence Methodists and other preachers obtained their new religion from the atheists of France. O ye miserable, deluded creatures, God have mercy on you. A single quotation from page from 393, and we take our leave to Robeson's proof of conspiracy. I am particularly struck by a position of Abe Burrow that irreligion and unqualified liberties and qualities are the genuine and original secrets of Freemasonry and the optimum of the regular progress through all its degrees. He supports this remarkable position with great ingenuity and many very permanent facts, pretended facts. Printed, my fault. I'm gonna leave it alone. Confess that now, when I have got this impression, I shall find it very difficult to offers effects. The sentiment of Burrow is obviously true in regards to all the degrees above the first three, as we think we have clearly shown, and that the first three degrees are exceedingly corrupt, and corrupting is not less obvious. But whether Anderson and Disgollery constructed them with direct reference in irreligion and unqualified liberty as the grand ultimum cannot be proved save from the nature of the degree, or they have left no private correspondence wherein such a design is stated, but the construction of the other degrees have, or rather have writings, such writings have been seized, and in them this design was found written by the conspirators, and the handwriting identified, while others of the conspirators have divulged and testified to the whole. The constructors of the first degrees, 3 degrees Masons, tell us burnt there in paper in 1720. But whether they did or did not burn them, and 3 degrees in the Book of Constitutions along have been left for our inspection. Yet as a Frenchman was engaged planning the first 3 degrees, the French atheist may have had more to do even with these degrees than has Hetebo been supposed. Christians, no, certain it is that these degrees went to France pretty soon after their construction, and the results has been as we have shown. Okay, so we finished that. It wasn't as I'm gonna be honest, it wasn't as delightful as what I'm about to put out when it comes to Freemasonry. You know, he's right on the things that he's saying, but there are mysteries inside there that I'm about to put out that will reveal, how the French, took on the role of the atheist, how the Scottish took on the role of the Satanism, how the York Rite has taken on spirituality in the whole field, which was Jesus at one point. I realized I ain't had my light on this whole time. You know. Anyway, I'm Juice Wanna. This is Old York Gritty, and we discuss everything under the sun that is real. I hope you enjoyed this show, and until next time, we are out. Oh, yeah, and don't forget to hit that like, that subscribe, and that notification bell so you can be notified whenever new content is uploaded. And by the way, this is my personal novel, Street Skells Knock 'em Out the Box. As you can see, it's a full book here, no BS, no BS. You know what I'm saying? This is all real. All right. So until next time, peace. We out of here.